I will just turn it over to you.
Thank you, Linda. Welcome everyone to the session tonight. I am Kathy Zeman I'm the operations manager for the Minnesota Farmers Market Association. I work part-time for MFMA here out of my farm office, and I started in September, so I'm relatively new to the Minnesota Farmers Market Association. And heads up, if anybody has questions, go ahead and text them in the chat, and I'll try to answer them as we go. To give you the big picture, there's 21 slides in this PowerPoint, so that'll give you an idea of how fast and how far we go. And the first several are just to talk about the current issues that are facing farmers markets in Minnesota and actually the U.S. And then the last 7 or 8 are on marketing. So I hope that's a nice balance for you. But if I get going and you don't see your question getting answered, make sure you type it in for me, and I'll try to answer it. To give you a little bit of background on myself, I run a 20-acre certified organic farm in Rice County, just south of Northfield, by the little town of Nerstrand. And I also, 4 years ago, helped start Riverwalk Market Fair, a farmers market and artist market in Northfield. And the second year that we were in operation, we did add SNAP. For those of you who are maybe new to that acronym, it's the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. It's the old food stamps. And we added that a few years ago. However, we have not been successful, or very successful at having our SNAP participants access them, even though it's available. We have a lot of people use our machine as a debit card machine, but not necessarily for SNAP. So that's my background. I'm a farmer, and I helped start a farmer's market 4 years ago, and now I work part-time with the Minnesota Farmers Market Association outside of my little farm office here in Nerstrand. And I'm new to using UM Connect, so let's hope I can figure out what I'm doing, all right? So there's several current issues facing farmers markets in Minnesota and across the U.S. There's more, because of the growth, because of the tremendous popularity, we're beginning to be on the radar of grocery stores and the health departments and the departments of ag. And so more and more attention is being given to food safety practices of getting the food to the market. So what MFMA will help do is organize those typical gaps, the good ag practices that we should all be practicing on the farm, how to get our produce harvested or the eggs picked or whatever it is, the baked bread baked in a clean setup and get them to the market at the right temp and the right containers with the right labeling, all of that to the market so that it gets home nicely. There's a lot of commotion around food sampling practices at the market. We're going to talk about that in a couple of slides. There's competing and conflicting rules being at different markets due to the overlap of Minnesota Department of Health and the Minnesota Department of Ag. Both of them look at farmers markets, and depending on what you're serving or what you're sampling, the rule either comes from the Department of Ag or the Department of Health, and that's very confusing at many markets. And then, of course, there are many farmers markets that are requesting that vendors have product liability insurance, and all markets recommend that it's a good practice. Some of them are requiring it. And so that's another source of contention and cost to a farmer's market and a vendor. Oops, I clicked the wrong one. There you go. Another, in 2005 or 2006, Midtown Farmers Market in Minneapolis was the first farmers market in Minnesota to bring SNAP or food stamps back to the market. And remember that food stamps used to be at farmers markets all the time when they were in paper form, but then the USDA converted them to the plastic card to make it more efficient, investing at the USDA's end, but then it certainly stopped any farmers market from using food stamps because farmers don't have a credit card machine at their booth, at their vendor's booth. So, of course, there's been motion now across the U.S. for USDA to help pay for some of those and get those machines. They're called POS machines, point of sale machines. And that's usually one per market, and then you can swipe your card, and then you get wooden tokens, and you pay the vendor with a wooden token, and then the vendor sells the product to you, to the SNAP participant, and then at the end of the day, you bring the tokens back to your central tent at your farmer's market, and you get reimbursed then for that amount. And it's the only way we could figure out how to do that. It's a great benefit for produce farmers and food farmers and transplant farmers because that's all that's eligible for SNAP. But there's a cost to the market. Running SNAP at a market actually costs a little bit of money, and we don't have a good handle yet on how to pay for that. Right now, many grants are being written and applied to the farmers market, but that's really not sustainable in the long run. And so, if we really want people that are on food stamps, SNAP, to be able to buy locally, fresh, organic, sustainably raised food, then we have to make it possible for them to do it at a farmer's market. And yet the farmer's market business model, because of the relatively small budgets with very low margins, is not really easy to do without grants to do it. And of course, grants are not long-term, they're short-term. We don't have a good answer on that yet. And then the big current issue for all markets and all vendors within a market is to do marketing. And I kind of broke it down into different categories here, alliances. And by alliances, I mean every farmer's market has other organizations, partners in their community that they can build an alliance with or partner with to maximize their marketing. And I'll go into a little bit with that. And of course, you can always do email blitzes and social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you name it, it's out there. Then there's signs and banners, and you can do print and radio and web ads, but it all comes down to your budget. And by budget, I mean both time and money. Obviously, it does not take very much money at all to send emails out and to do Facebook and Twitter, but it does take time. It takes an immense amount of time. And you have to have a plan for that so that before the season starts, so that you can kind of jump into it. So let's talk about the food safety issues. Currently there are no regulations yet that insist that farmers have a food safety audit or do a gap plan on their farm to get that produce or meat, eggs to the market. But that could be coming for the produce farmers. Certainly there's many regulations on eggs, that comes from the NDA, and meat NDA. But so GAP is out there, and most of the farmers that are paying attention to the long run success of the farmers market will be paying attention to having a written food safety plan for getting their produce out of their field all the way to the market. Okay, so food safety really boils down. The Minnesota Department of Ag, that's NDA, Minnesota Department of Ag is really responsible for all farmers markets. And the rules are written and it flows underneath NDA. And NDA does give 20% person on their staff to support farmers markets in the state of Minnesota. So we have Ruth White, who helps organize the farmers market programs in Minnesota. And MDA has most of the rules. And for the most part, you should assume, we loved it when they described that to us at our fall workshop, you should assume that you need a license. If you are going to sell something at a market, you should assume that you have a license, you need a license from the MDA, unless you meet 3 categories. Unless you are a farmer, and a farmer could be a market gardener. Unless you are selling a potentially non-hazardous food. So a hazardous food, so the non-hazardous foods are a long list, so then it's easier to back into that equation and say, what are the hazardous foods? So a hazardous food would be anything that has a raw egg. So a custard, a quiche, you definitely need a license. But baked goods, pickled goods, as long as you're following the pickle bill, then you don't need a license. But then when you start going into the prepared food, so let's say that you do want to sell custard, you're an egg farmer, and you want to be able to sell custard and quiches, then you do have to have a license from the Minnesota Department of Health, and those products would need to be made in a licensed commercial kitchen. So what complicates those two is that MDA is in charge of all of these rules statewide, except they have handed off that regulation to 8 different locales in the state of Minnesota. And if you go to the MDA's website, it'll show you where those locales are. MDH is also, the Minnesota Department of Health, is also in charge of all of the food. Anytime you go to prepared food, they are in charge of those rules, but they, I see the sound is sounding a little like a cracked record. Sorry, I don't know how to do that. I'm going to try speaking slower, and that might help the comprehension better. We'll try that. Let me know how the sound goes. So MDH has handed off or delegated their authority to 34 different locales. So for instance, the city of Minneapolis has been delegated MDH's authority. And if you're delegated an authority from the MDH, it means that you cannot be less restrictive than the MDH, but you can be more. So if you can imagine you have a set of rules between MDA and MDH, and then MDH hands off to 34 cities, townships, counties. MDA is handing off to 8 other ones. And in those situations, those entities can have rules that are more restrictive. So if you're a vendor selling at ABC Farmers Market, and ABC Farmers Market is just governed by MDH, you would be under one rule. But then you're a farmer and you also are selling at a Minneapolis Farmers Market, which is under the Minneapolis Department of Health. It's been delegated that authority. They can have different rules, and it can be more restrictive, not less restrictive. So it does get very confusing for vendors when you begin to cross into different farmers markets that might be governed under a delegated authority between the Minnesota Department of Ag and Minnesota Department of Health. And then on top of that, a local government, your city, your township, your county, could also decide that they want to add a different, more restrictive policy than either of the states. MDH follows the Minnesota Food Code, the USDA Food Code, and they are in the process of revising that. They need to match up with the USDA Food Code, and they're in the process of revising that. So we're assuming that as they get done with that revision, that some new rules will come on board. To give you a perfect example of how confusing it can get, if you're a sweet corn farmer and you're selling your sweet corn at a farmer's market, and you want to give food samples, you as a farmer have an exemption to hand out food samples of your sweet corn without a license, as long as it's just your sweet corn. But some of the MDH inspectors would say the minute that you put salt or pepper or butter on it, then you didn't raise the salt and you did not raise and make that butter. Therefore, you would need a license to hand out those food samples. But there's not always consistency in that interpretation. And so one of the things that Minnesota Farmers Market is doing is working with both MDA and MDH in trying to achieve some consistency in some of those interpretations, and building those into an answer database, so that if you're in the same area, the same market rules will apply. Okay, so here's your food sampling. And that's what I just talked about on the rules and regs between the MDA, the MDH, and the local government. Food sampling will change depending on the locale that you are in. Most of the time, they're fine. All of the rules say that if you're going to hand out food sampling, you have to hand out individual samples. So you could not put a plate out and cut a bunch of cucumbers and just let people pick up a slice of cucumber and eat it, because their hand could touch one of the other cucumbers. And if their hand was dirty, they pass their germs onto that other cucumber that some poor unsuspecting person is going to pick up and eat and potentially get sick. So you have to have them individually. So you either have to put a toothpick in each cucumber so that they're picking up the toothpick and then eating it, or you have to put them in little cups, or somehow make sure it's individual food samples. And there's a nice rule. Plastic gloves are always recommended and required. And the other little stipulation is anything that you can do in 4 hours is your least regulated. And so most of your food sampling on the food safety side is attached to time and temp. And 4 hours seems to be the longest period of time that you can let food sit out at room temperature, or think of that in hot July when it's much hotter than room temperature, that food can heat up, and when food warms up, that's when the bacteria growth happens. So 4 hours is the nice part. So if you are doing food sampling, main kind of control that to just 4 hours. That's your least amount of regulation. And as we always explain to our vendors at our farmers market and vendors all over the place, you know, the person that's going to get sick at your farmers market, in case there's a food handling problem, is somebody you know. It's going to be some little kid that you know, or your grandmother, or your grandfather, or somebody that's going to have an immune system problem, and that will be really horrible. So we do want to maintain really good food sampling and food safety rules, but they also need to be consistent and do apply to food safety. There is some discussion right now. We don't have a good answer on it for hand washing stands. Again, it's going to go back. I think that's what the MDH is going to say, that it's going to go back to the amount of time. We've heard answers that you needed everything from a 3-sink stainless steel NSF approved sink that will have 3 containers in it, 3 sinks in it. It has to be pressure hot water coming and soap and a way to collect all that gray water and take it off. Which runs anywhere between $3,000 and $5,000 per stainless steel 3-compartment sink, to just three white, it doesn't have to be white apparently, 3 5-gallon plastic pails with a thermos that has warm water in it, so you can push the button on the thermos, warm water flows out by gravity on your hand, so it flows out. You can wash up with water, paper towel, wipe your hand off, and that will suffice. So you've got, you know, maybe a $50 system compared to a $5,000 system. And we are asking for clarity on that from both the Minnesota Department of Health and the Minnesota Department of Ag to find out exactly what would the food science rules be behind that. And so that markets can come into compliance right away. So we're following the rules and following really good food safety. And the other one is that when you bring in a chef that will demo the food and cook on site, there are a couple of rules there. It needs to be on a paved surface. It can't be on dirt or on grass. Some kind of pavement, cement, concrete, tar, whatever. It needs to be under a tent. And then at that point, you need to have NSF utensils, which are available in most of the restaurant supply stores. So food sampling, really important, right? How do we expect people to try new things? Kale chips, yay. Bok choy, all of the really good vegetables. If they've never bought them before and they don't know how to make them, then it's really important that we are able to sample food at our farmers market, that we can cook it up, a salad, a warm, whatever, and have people sample it there. And the rules need to help support that so that can happen and yet keep everybody safe. So that's actually a big project that the Minnesota Farmers Market is working on this year with the MDA and the MDH. Liability insurance. So most farmers markets, if you're on any private or public property, you will be required more than likely to have some kind of liability insurance. So if the farmers market is set up in the city, and that would be general liability insurance. If somebody trips over a tent, tent blows on them, if somebody gets hurt, that's your general. And then they will also carry product liability insurance, and that applies to the vendor too. Farmers can typically add product liability to their farm policy for a fairly decent rate. And by that I mean maybe $150 to $200 a year, depending on your volume. And that will protect you. So, for instance, if you sell eggs and you make somebody sick, your product liability insurance will kick in to help pay for that cost. It's a little bit more expensive if a homeowner tries to add product liability insurance to their homeowner policy. So the Minnesota Farmers Market Association 2 years ago worked with Stearns Insurance Company out of St. Cloud. And so MFMA bought the big umbrella policy, and then vendors and markets can come underneath and buy individual policies out of that. So a market can buy for $150 plus a $25 admin fee, can buy liability insurance for their market, and vendors come in at various rates. If you just sell vegetables, it's a $25 admin fee plus $50 for the insurance, and then all the way up. If you're selling craft, it's the most expensive. And if you're selling baked goods, it's in the middle. So it's a very good value for that protection. Okay, so SNAP. SNAP is Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. That is the old food stamp. It's EBT only now. So EBT stands for Electronic Benefit Transfer. So it's only a plastic card, which that's the awkward part of when SNAP participants come to the market. They have a plastic card, but very, very few farmers have the machine that can accept it. They're special machines. Not all machines and services will accept SNAP, so it's a limited market. And the USDA is helping manage that. And that authority is passed down to each state. And here in Minnesota, we rely on the Department of Human Services to help us get those machines. There currently is $80 million available to Minnesota farmers markets this year. And that grant will pay for the cost of the machine and the monthly charges up to September. But after September, obviously the machine is already paid for, but the market will still have to pay for the monthly charge and the transaction fees. That monthly charge can run anywhere between $50 to $100 a month. And then transaction fees, if you use anywhere from 15 cents per transaction to 75 cents per transaction. And you can limit it just to EBT. You could have a machine that would only accept SNAP. But you could also choose to accept debit card, and you can go another step higher and accept a credit card. But all of those, every time you add on another transaction like that, you are charged more. So markets, if they're going to bring in SNAP and just look at SNAP, there will be minimal charge, but adding the ability for customers to use their debit or their credit card is truly a huge benefit to many farmers markets. You just have to figure out a way to pay for that. And then there's the square. I don't know how many of you have. Kathy, can you clarify how markets get approved for EBT? Yes, I can. SNAP. You get approved for SNAP basically by applying. So we have a booklet that we can get you. If you want to email me the last screen we talk about, my email is on there. And you can email me and get you the booklet. I can also put you in connection with Nancy Taft from DHS, the Department of Human Services. And she's the point person in Minnesota that will help markets do this. You have to be a market. You have to have bylaws. You have to have an EIN. An EIN is an employee identification number. You have to have a bank account. Somebody has to sign it. So when my market wanted to bring SNAP in, my name, my social security number, and my farm, actually, because I have to give the USDA permission to look at my book if ever there is any suspicion of doubt or anything. You have to have an entity. Somebody has to sponsor that and sign on for it. It's a lot of paperwork, In the early years, it took 6 to 7 months for a market to apply and finally get the machine. So you would try to start that process in the spring. You wouldn't get your machine until the last month of the market. It's much better now. You can apply and get your machine usually within 2 or 3 months, and so that's not so bad. But really, any market, if you are a true farmer's market, that you have a set of bylaws, and by bylaws, I don't mean 10 pages of gobbledygook. It just has to be, we have a mission, we have a vision, we have officers, here's how we make decisions, here's how we charge for things, that kind of thing. But you have to have a market, and you just apply for it. So if anybody wants to know how to do that, get a hold of me, and we can get you the book, and you can get in contact with Nancy Taff, and you can get signed up for it. The Square is good for a vendor, an individual vendor or farmer. You can accept people's debit and credit cards. The Square will not work for SNAP yet. It has to be programmed. And then if you bring SNAP in, you actually have to have a person who is going to be at that welcome tent or on that machine and help the SNAP participant swipe the card. So they swipe the card, they say, I want to spend $20 today at the farmer's market. Then that person gives that, so your farmer's market person gives your SNAP participant $20 worth of wooden coins. They go spend those coins with the farmer. The farmer at the end of the day turns the coins back in. You have to make a note of all of that. You have to make a note of all of that and then carry on. If you bring in SNAP, every vendor has to sign a contract that says that they understand what is eligible for SNAP and what isn't. And so really high level, if you're going to eat it, if you have somebody who sells cookies at your farmer's market and you buy the cookie and you eat it, that is not eligible for SNAP. But if you sell cookies and they're in a bag that closed as if they were going to take it home, that would be eligible for SNAP. So and there's a nice cheat sheet out on the USDA website, and every vendor who accepts SNAP signs this little contract that says, yes, I've taken the training, I know what's eligible and what isn't. And so that's that cost to SNAP at farmers market. And again, the deal with the Square is really good for a market or an individual to accept credit or debit, but right now they're not yet programmed to accept SNAP. So for the last half of the session, let's talk about marketing. I actually took a number of classes of marketing while I was in college. I majored in ag business, but prior to that, I was did a minoring in communications and marketing. And I worked as a marketer for a number of associations and, of course, for my farm. And you can read books and courses on marketing. And I always think, it's really pretty simple. In the end, you're going to just follow a handful of basic principles. You have to figure out from a standpoint, are you a farmer's market or are you a community event? And so many farmers markets are just that. They're going to be there to sell. Vendors come in to sell, shoppers come in to buy, and that's it. It's shorter hours probably, and it's a very quick and clean transaction. Many farmers markets now are becoming community events where community partners will have a tent. So maybe it's the Rotary Club the first Saturday has a tent and they get to talk about hand out things about the Rotary, or your school, or any of your sports teams, or they'll have musicians come in and play. So you have to decide, who are you? Are you the farmer's market or a community event? Because that will help drive what your marketing does. And you have to decide, what are you marketing? Are you marketing farm products? Are you just marketing for the vendors? Or are you going to market healthy food? That will also drive your marketing plan. And your marketing plan, heads up, you'll have to write it down. You're going to have to answer these questions and write it down. And you need to do that probably in December, in January, in February, maybe March. Because once you get into the market, it's really busy, and everybody is scrambling to get just there to sell products and have fun and get the plan done. So it's important to get the plan done in those down months. And then you get to decide, who are your customers. For instance, our Riverwalk Market Fair here in Northfield has, say, 25,000 people in it. And if I want 10% of Northfield people to shop at the market, it means that every Saturday I want 250 Northfielders at the farmer's market doing their grocery shopping. And if that's my local market, then I need to figure out how to get to those local people. That works for the farmer's market. But part of what Riverwalk is an artist market. Well, the artist market needs a much bigger audience than just Northfield. So we also say we will have to attract customers from up to 100 miles away. That drives our marketing plan. That drives where we're going to put ads and what kind of ads we're going to do. So it's important to figure out who you are, what you're marketing, and then who are your customers? How many of them are there locally? Which is just look in the census, figure out how many people you got within 50 miles. And then you'll know how big is your market. And remember, most farmers markets are in the summer season, spring and summer season. And so maybe you've got tourists that you can also attract. So figure out how many people are in that customer base, and then how many people you want to show up every single Saturday at your market, or Tuesday or Thursday or whatever your market is. So figure out, why are you valuable? Why would anybody come to your farmer's market? Why would vendors come to sell? Why would customers come to buy? And why should the community support you? And when you can answer that, why are you valuable? And not just for me, narrowly, but why are you valuable to the whole entity? So for your vendors, you're helping other entrepreneurs learn how to make money and be self-sustaining. Customers, you are giving them a fresh, local, organic, sustainable food right there from their neighborhood. It doesn't require a lot of fossil fuels trucked in from thousands of miles away. And the community, you are offering your community something fun and educational every single week. Then you have to decide, where are you marketing? Is it going to be a geographical versus a platform marketing? So by that, I mean, if you're going to market are you only going to market in 100 miles from each other, from where you're at, or versus platform, which would be social media, which could reach all over the place. We actually ship some of our artwork. People stop, and then we ship artwork throughout the U.S. and even into Canada sometimes, because our marketing goes beyond just our little 100-mile entity. And then when will you market? Many farmers markets think only seasonal. Well, we start in June, we end in October, so we should probably start in May. There's a strong argument that you might want to market all year long. That's kind of easy on the social media. For instance, we have a high school student that does a lot of our Facebook and Twitter for us, and that means all year long, Barbara Nickel is sending out little tweets and putting out things on Facebook to remind people that Riverwalk Market Fair is alive and well, even though we only go June through October and then once for Winter Walk in December. So don't just think seasonal, think year-long. So how will you market? Again, this is why you want to do your plan, write it down, because it'll require money and time. In our little local market, we know that a third of our budget we can raise in vendor fees. Every year we raise about $8,000 in vendor fees between the farmers and the artists. Our budget, though, is about $32,000. We go out and we get the rest of that money from our community who values us, and then we also market our whole community. So every week we have a community partner there. We have 2 tents for youth that can come and sell whatever they grow or make, and we have music there every Saturday. And we reach out, and whenever we place an ad, whether it's in print or radio, we're not just marketing Riverwalk, we're marketing the city of Northfield. So, but that takes both, so that budget, our plan, we first have the plan, and then that budget requires both money and time. And that outside money that we raise outside of our vendor fees, that's what we throw at our marketing. We buy ads. We spend probably $9,000 a year in ads, print, and that usually goes to our regional magazines, Rochester, Duluth, the Twin Cities, and then time. We have to pay somebody to do that with for us. Also, be really clear about what skill sets you have. If what skill sets that people have within your community that can help out, either for volunteering or for pay. But so, for instance, if you're really not good at designing a really cool graphic ad, then don't do that. Try to hire that done or barter that. You just have to figure out what your skill sets are. And within your community, you will find somebody who's really good at writing. So use those writing skills. You may find a good graphic artist person, use those, or you might have to hire that out. But just figure that out. Write down where your skill sets are. Maybe vendors, and many markets will allow vendors to have a reduced rate. Let's say that you've got a vendor who also does something with radio. Well, maybe they only have to pay half the fee, and then they the rest of the time that they donate to help market. And then remember that all of your online advertising, for some reason, is now cheaper than your typical print ad and your typical radio ad. Facebook and Twitter and Explore Minnesota are incredibly cheap, and they reach a lot very fast and very easily. And then leverage your community assets. So what we found out in Northfield is we had a couple of stores that were afraid that the vendors that were selling baked goods and selling coffee would be a competitor of our local downtown. And so we said, hey, why don't we work together? And so those businesses now, we have a featured business every week. And we feature a business from downtown, and they have a little coupon off, or we hand out flyers for them. And in their store, they have a sign that says, hey, go to the farmer's market today, and then come back and get your blah, blah, blah. And we do the same thing for them. So you will always find, I don't care what a little town you are or what a big town you are, you will find community people, community businesses that will complement your farmer's market. You just have to look around and find them. And I have lived and worked in tiny towns and also really big ones, and there's always community assets that you can leverage. And the same thing goes for a vendor. Vendors can also just, there will be other vendors that you can work together. So for instance, one vendor who sells all pickles and mustards and that type of thing, spreads at our farmer's market, every week buys their little artisan bread from one of the bread makers. And then that bread maker always does a nice job on Facebook saying, boy, you should have seen the nice bagel. They used our bagel, but they used their honey mustard, and it was a wonderful treat. So vendors can also help market each other's products. So before you can really start this big marketing plan, there are some preliminary pieces you have to have. You have to have a mission. You have to have a vision. And you can go to classes and learn which one of those comes first and which one's most important. But in the end, you got to figure out, what does your farmer's market want to do? Our farmer's market says we want to build our local food shed. That's it. That's what we want to do. Whatever that takes, our whole mission in our farmer's market is to build our local food shed. So when something comes up, should we do this or should we not do this? If it fits our mission, does it fit our mission to build our local food shed, then we do it, and if not, no. You will need a name, you're going to need a logo, and if you can, find a slogan that kind of works. And by logo, a picture, right? Whatever that is. A picture could have some words in it, but you're always going to need a logo that you can stick on everything possible, and then your slogan. And some of them are cool, and some are dorky, and some are corny. You don't really care. Just you have something so that people always attach that. So try to have those 4 pieces in place before you can start that plan. So some of the alliances that you can build, for markets can build, first of all, you can always join the Minnesota Farmers Market Association. It's a $70 membership fee, annual membership fee, and we give you a page on our website, and we help market you. And then we also obviously offer a listserv that we send out messages on all year long, and to help figure out problems or concerns. You can join Minnesota Growing. Minnesota Growing, I think think you join for 20, could be a $60 fee to get into their directory, and they hand out how many gazillion directories. You can join localharvest.org, local harvest, but it's localharvest.org. Get on there. They ask for a donation, but you don't get billed, but you can list your farmer's market on localharvest.org. Your vendors should all be, on the bottom of their email, they should be putting in there, see me at, XYZ Farmers Market on Saturday at 2 o'clock. Oh, hang on a second. I'm going to go back here. Could you define food share? Actually, it's our local food shed. Like watershed, that's really where we got the term. Everybody knows what that watershed is, right? It's defined, actually, statewide. And so we just borrowed that term to say what we want to do is say our food shed, which could be, some people will define food shed, SHED, as being 100 miles from where you are or 200 miles. But what we want to do is encourage every farmer, every food person within our little shed, however big you think that is, to grow food. Because that makes us resilient. That's our theory, that's our plan. So that when oil goes to $10 a gallon or whatever happens in the future, we've got resources right here in our backyard that we're growing our meat, our veggies, our produce, our eggs, our dairy, our grains, whatever we can. If we can raise it, then, and we want to support that. We want to make sure that we're supporting that. So that's our vision. It's our food shed, whatever that works to build our food shed. That was a good question, Donna. Thank you. Okay, so your vendors should all be helping you market the market. Your vendors should all be linked to your Facebook page. And then your community partners should always be on their horizon. If they're anytime that community partners, your schools, your YMCAs, your PTA, your grocery stores, anybody in your community is a community partner. And if you can help them, they can help you. So those are the alliances that you're going to rely on to help you with your marketing. Vendors, from a vendor. So I'm a vendor. I'm Kathy Zeman from Simple Harvest Farm Organics, and I am going to help, my farmer's market is going to help me market my farm and our products, because my farm is listed on our farmer's market website, so people can click that and jump to me. My fellow vendors also help me market my farm as we complement each other and barter with each other. And community partners. Our farm will host school events, educational events, and that means that our community partners are always talking about my farm. So those are the alliances. It's a fancy word, really just means the people you rub shoulders with every day. Make sure that you're working together, lockstep, going forward to promote you, your farm, your community, and that'll help everybody. So when you talk about marketing, if you ever send out an email, make sure that that bottom part of an email is called the signature block, one of the terms they call it, and it should be your name, your address, your phone number, your website, your email, and then make sure you dump in there the date and the time and the place of your farmer's market. So when my personal email goes out, my signature block includes, hey, check us out at Riverwalk every Saturday from 9 to 1 at downtown Northfield, June through October. If you can, grab email from any of your customers and you create your own distribution list. And most email products out there call them distribution lists or groups. And you just throw them all into one list, and then with one click, you can send a message out to all of those customers. And you don't want to bury them in email, but certainly you could do every month an email to them, hey, catch us at the farmer's market, or make sure that, or from a market perspective, you would advertise what you're going to do the next week. Make sure you come and see so-and-so play the music, or somebody's going to have fresh tomatoes this week, or the very first asparagus will be coming out. There are two email products you can use. MailChimp is free. Constant Contact is not. Unless you're Constant Contact is free for a short period of time, but then they'll charge you. They're also free if you're a 501c3 nonprofit, but otherwise there's a charge there. But think about using any kind of the emails, and the the key with marketing then is not to bury people with too many emails, but more than once a month, but less than twice a week. So social media, which one? Facebook, Twitter, sure, because you can hook Facebook and Twitter up so that anything you put a tweet out on Twitter, and that's a real short message, actually only 140 characters, it'll automatically sync to Facebook. But those are the easy, fast ones that probably every teenager in your neighborhood can do for you. This is what I mean about timely messages, effective versus annoying. Don't bury your customers under too many messages. Make sure that they actually mean something. Not just, hey, come and buy from me on Saturday, but I will have the bok choy this Saturday. I will have asparagus this Saturday. I will be sampling kale chips this Saturday. And social media, the nice part about that budget, it is cash free, but it can use up some time. And so in the beginning of the season, if you could even pencil out for a market, what you're going to want to talk about in June, the big points for July, the big points for August, the big points for September. That gives you a really quick and easy plan to go forward with. Signs and banners. You can spend a good $3,000 to $4,000 on signs and banners. You can have permanent, if you're lucky and your community will let you put a permanent one up so that it's always there. From the season, June through October, whenever your season is, those are great. Many cities, though, don't allow that, and so you'll have to put up flags or banners on Market Day. They actually work with a couple of really good vendors who make some pretty decent signs and banners for not too much money. And you can, again, email me and we can put you in contact with those folks. Or if you have any good artists in the community, they could do that too. So if you can have a band, and it's got to be simple, but your logo, your name, the date, and the time, so that people can get there. So they remember, yep, well, that's right, Wednesday, or yep, on Thursday evening, or wherever it is. You can do flags, there's vinyl, there's wood, there's plastic, do whatever fits your budget. And marketing on for the signs and banners, you can dump $3,000 into signs and banners pretty easy. Ads. Print ads, they're a little bit spinny, but you'll know in your local communities what's best for you. In our community, our local newspaper ads aren't as effective. We can tell because we've tried to put coupons out and they don't pull back, so that was a key to us. We do a lot of regional, but only for the art, not for the farmers market side. Interestingly, our local AM radio station does really good work. We actually get we try to promote something in particular so we can judge the effectiveness of that ad. You should do the same thing. We don't really have access to any regional radio here that helps really well, so we wouldn't do that. On the web, you can do social ads. Facebook will let you do an ad. When you do an ad like that, try to make it specific so that you can truly assess whether it was effective. So tie it to some kind of a promotion. They come down, put an ad out there that if you show up at the farmer's market this Saturday, you'll all get a free cucumber or pickle or something. And then you'll be able to say, oh yeah, that actually reached 100 people. If you're putting out ads that you cannot assess the effectiveness, rethink making that ad, rethink putting out that ad, because you have to be able to assess effectiveness because advertising costs a little bit of money. And most of these ads, very few of these ads will be free unless you can tie into one of your partners, one of those alliances I talked about. Maybe the local feed store, the local co-op is doing an ad, and they would do a dump in there. Make sure you stop at your farmers market. That could be an easier way. So farmers market business model. As a business model, it's kind of a tough one to be self-sustaining. I think that most of the vibrant, successful markets have figured out that about a third of their budget is vendor fees, and 2/3 of their budget is going to be sponsorship, some kind of outside way to raise money, because to be able to do all the things you want to do takes more money than you're going to be able to charge your vendors in most cases. Because if the vendors are paying a seasonal fee, a daily fee, they've got to get their product liability insurance, and then they have to get there, raise everything. But there's not that much margin. So think about where you can go to get sponsorship, And don't think about just 1 year, but think about an annual. So is it possible if your local hospital or your local medical institution talk about health and being healthy, is that then an annual sponsorship that they could sponsor? That might be one way to look at it. Rumination. I'm getting to the end here, and I wanted to make sure we talked about relationship marketing. So you can try to sell anybody anything, right? It can just be really hardcore marketing. But I think what farmers markets are best at is building relationships with their customers. Because as you as the vendor are selling your product, you are developing a relationship with that customer, which is a much different marketing model than any other food selling model that we have in the U.S. When you buy your food at the grocery store, you don't know where that food's coming from. You don't know what farmer has raised that or how it got there. But in a farmer's market, that is a direct relationship with the farmer who raised it. And take advantage of that when you're marketing it. People will, once you develop a relationship with your customers, they'll have high expectations, and yet they will be more accepting of your, let's say that you have the tomatoes got hailed on. So you bought some tomatoes that had a couple of dimples in them. They will be much more acceptable of purchasing that because they have a relationship with you. And they understand that's what happens. Hail happens sometimes. The other thing that to think about complaints are really opportunities to collaborate. Anytime that you get a complaint from another vendor or another business, because we're all in this together, right? We're all trying to make money and we're all trying to be viable. Then anytime that someone complains to you, turn that into hey, thanks for bringing that to my attention, and we work together to resolve it. But we have turned a lot of complaints into really cool collaboration in the market. Okay, so that's really who we are. Minnesota Farmers Market Association is a nonprofit, membership-based organization dedicated to supporting the growth and development of farmers markets across the state of Minnesota. That's our website. You can click out to. You want to email me if you need any of the information I talked about, do that, or give us a call at that number on the screen. But that would do it for right now, unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Kathy. We'll invite people to post their questions in the chat box. Thank you, Kathy. We'll invite people to post their questions.
Do we have a resource for sinks? Yes, perhaps. I know it's not a dorky answer. So on Thursday, March 21st, so this coming up Thursday, we have our spring conference in Lake Park, which is really St. Cloud, it's a suburb of St. Cloud. And we're going to be talking about these sinks, Linda, about which ones we really do have to have for food sampling, because you can have hand washing. For $425, you can pick up a nice all-encased hand washing stand, but it's not NSF. And it would be like a hand washing stand for a market. So it wouldn't really qualify for food sampling. So on Thursday, we have at our spring conference, we have a bunch of the folks from MDH coming, and we're going to have a nice discussion on that. And then we're going to share that also throughout our listserv. So any of you guys ever want to learn more about what's going on a day-to-day basis with farmers market, email me and I'll add you to our listserv. That's a way for us to get to everybody with one click. And it's easy to delete if something shows up for you. If you're not interested, just delete it. But Linda, we will have a resource for sinks within about 2 weeks, because we actually have a grant also that we wrote and received to help farmers markets get these sinks in so they can do good food sampling legally. But we need clarification from the MDH right now to make sure that we're not going to go buy something that doesn't work. So email address for Kathy that's on the screen right now. You email info@immigrantmade.org. Email that, and I will be able to get back to you on this link. And I'll write that down, too. I'm going to write that down to make sure that I post out there to that farmer's market the thing on the things, because it's a big issue for everybody. No. Hand sanitizer, you can use it. It's not considered legal. It's non-compliant. So that wouldn't make sense. You can do it, but it's not legal. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I was taking a sip of water. Yes, people can still sign up for the conference. You go out to our website that's on the screen right now, www.mfma.org, and go on to MFMA events, or actually just go to the right-hand side of the front page. You can still sign up. Now it's $40 for the day. That includes all your refreshments and the noon meal. But we're going to be talking about, so pretty cool. Minnesota Growing is coming. They surveyed 1,100 people at farmers markets last year, the 57 different farmers markets, asking them, hey, what do you think about your farmers market? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? We're going to be hit to hear that. And then Bossy Acres is coming. They're going to do a whole session on social media. So everything you ever wanted to learn about being efficient on Facebook and Twitter, there's that session. I'll be reporting on the four grants that we managed this year, which did include SNAP. We'll talk about food sampling. I'm also going to talk about crisis management. So every farmer's market, if you think of the farmer's market setup, we have tornadoes come through, straight line wind, somebody could choke on a piece of food, you could have any kind of crisis. We're going to be talking farmers markets through how to come up with just a plan. So in case something happens, whether you're in downtown Minneapolis or out in the middle of Nerstrand, which has 200 people in it, that you have some plan in place in case of bad weather or someone gets ill, just you have a plan in place. What else is, go out there, the day schedule's out there, but yes, you can still sign up. It's $40 for the day. Pickle Brothers, yes, we are going to make a recording available afterwards. And we'll put that out. We're going to try to put them out on the website, and then we'll send them out on our listserv. I really encourage you to sign up for our listserv. If you just email me, I can put you on. You can also sign up yourself. You go to resources and then the farmers listserv. I can do it for you, but we're going to do the same thing. And we'll have handouts, too, so that for instance, crisis management is really a bunch of paper so you can read it and then come up with your own plan. So we can do that. Last thing I can offer, the first week in November, probably November 4th, we're going to host one of our fall workshops in McIntosh, up in the northwest corner. Keep your eye out for that, because sometimes it's so hard to get everybody down the middle of the state. So we're going to have one in McIntosh. We think that'll help out the folks up there. So if you have any ideas you want to learn in November, let us know, and we're supposed to try to get it in that week before deer hunting starts.
Thank you, Kathy. That was a lot of great information. Thank you, Kathy. And I would include information.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks for this. Is so cool.
I encourage all farmers markets to be sure that they become members of Minnesota Farmers Market Association and connect to the listserv. There are a lot of resources through that listserv. And even if you're not a market, through that listserv. You're not a market.